All right, Billy Mitchell, CEO of SearchLogic. Thanks for joining the Tech Leads podcast today. It's great to have you. We've talked a couple times now over the last few months, kind of connected through your podcast. So thanks for hosting.
Sure.
And I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of share some time back with you and kind of do it our way, and dive into some of your background and your business. So tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Search Logic, your business, how you got here, and where you think you're going.
Sure. Um, all good questions, and I don't know where I'm going all the time, but we'll see what we can do. Yeah, I've always been a an entrepreneur. I know a lot of people say that, but my first job when I was 14 was washing dishes at local Denny's, and the first day I walked in, and this people are gonna laugh, but I had sideburns and I had scruff already at 14, so I was an early bloomer on that. And I hadn't shaved, mostly because was a lazy 14-year-old. Why do you shave? And the old manager, he looks at me and he goes, "You forget to shave today?" And I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I'll shave next time." He goes, "No, you'll go home right now and you'll shave and come back." And I was like, "Okay, I got to call my mom, and she's probably not home yet." So it was kind of the birth of this. I don't want to work for somebody like this. Like, what do I have to do to not ever be in this situation again? And so maybe that's why I have a beard and I always have since then. But yeah, so I started my own company when I was I think 16, pressure washing. Kind of did that through the rest of high school and into I only went to 1 year of college, but did that into college. And then from there, I got my real estate license, worked under somebody for a couple of years. Then I started my own company, and did that for an additional 6 years till roughly 2008 when everything crashed.
Yep.
And around that time, I had put all my eggs into investor baskets, and that money was drying up. There was a lot of, Bernie Madoff type scandals going on around that time, and some of the people I was involved with had borrowed money they shouldn't have and spent money in ways they shouldn't have. Luckily, I was just a realtor representing the sales and the purchase of the property, but my income stream dried up pretty quickly. So I was living with some guys, and one of them was the CEO of a marketing company, and I said, "Hey, I need something just temporary until I figure out what I'm going to do." And he said, "Well, come make some calls for me, set appointments, and let's see what we can do." Um, that was a lot of fun, and we were calling car lots, selling this direct mail campaign thing. My territory was the East Coast for the most part, so I was really getting that leather skin developed.
Uh,
Being told to F off or whatever the case might be. It was brutal, but the company a few months actually after I started, they pivoted into digital marketing. So they went from direct mail into digital marketing. And at this time, Google and well, yeah, I guess it was just Google for the most part then, was really kind of just this unknown. A lot of people did it, but it wasn't mainstream.
right.
And we pivoted from calling dealerships for the direct mail to calling businesses for Google, and it was shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, it was amazing. We would just call and say, "Hey, we can do better than you already have." And most of the time, people are like, "What is Google Ads?" And
Yep.
it's like, "Oh, we can drive traffic to your site." Wonderful. Um, and what's kind of crazy, and we'll get to more now here in a second, but the owner of the company, not the CEO, but the owner of the company, I became friends with. And during a meeting one day, he said, "Hey, I would like to start an operations office in Egypt. Is there anybody that would like to go to Egypt?" I was the first and the only person to raise my hand. I was single at the time, and I was just thrilled. I was like, "Heck yeah, let's go do this crazy thing." So I go back to my house. I called my parents and I said, "Hey guys, in a few months, I'm moving to Egypt." They said, "Well, how long are you going to be there?" I said, "Well, I'm getting a one-way ticket." so I don't know. And
Wow.
yeah, it was an amazing adventure. And the reason I tell this portion of the story is it was pivotal in developing who I am and I have become, um, in so many ways that I don't even fully understand today. And this was what, nearly 20 years ago, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I lived in Egypt for the better part of 5 months, and personally, I came home too early. I wish I would have stayed longer. Had a lot of great success right up front, and then kind of crashed and burned on it. At the time, now in hindsight, looking back, young and dumb, didn't really know what I was doing. To the point where I landed in Egypt, and I realized at that point that I had not practiced or even thought to consider speaking Arabic.
Yeah.
And I get out to where all the taxis are, and I've got a piece of paper with my hotel, and I'm going around trying to find a way to get to this hotel and realizing at this moment that my paper is in English and everybody speaks Arabic. And I'm just like, this is nuts. And so God is good, and He took care of me while I was there, thankfully, because I couldn't have done it on my own.
Wow.
But, anyways, all that to say, I fell in love with people, cultures, business, international, national, whatever the case might be. And I just wanted to be in that. And I didn't really care what that looked like ultimately.
Huh.
Um, Once I got back, flash forward a little bit, I had come to the realization that I wanted to start my own marketing company. Um, I didn't want to burn bridges with where I was at. In some cases, I did, some I didn't. Kind of inevitable when you leave one company to go start your own, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But partnered with another guy and said, "Hey, let's do this thing together." And for about 6 months, he would drive to my house. We'd work out of my bedroom. We built this company, and we had incredible growth. This was Search Logic. We had incredible growth really quickly, and we both were figuring it out, which I think is kind of the neat part about entrepreneurship. As long as you've got that momentum and idea, and you know, yeah, you're gonna fail, you're gonna hurt yourself. But I think Bob, you and I talked about it on previously. It's like the failing forward, right?
Yeah.
You've got to fail in a direction where you're making progress. So learned a lot over the course of those years. I bought my partner out about, I always forget this, 6 or 7 years ago.
Wow.
He's off doing incredible stuff. Still maintain good relationship with him. In fact, I hope to see him in Oregon when I'm back there. And then, um, yeah, actually, I was just looking at this. We're at 13 and a half years, which is a pretty good run.
Yeah.
And then over the course of that time, I started a few other companies, recruiting company, marketing technology management company, and a few others. But where I'm going, um, I want to start the process of moving out of the business, and being more in that advisory perspective, putting the right people in the place. I'm
Yeah.
keenly aware of my weaknesses now, and I'm also aware of my strengths, and I'm spending too much time in my weaknesses, and I'd like to spend more time in my strengths. So that's the
Oh,
future for me.
interesting. So tell me about Search Logic. I mean, what's it's a digital ad agency, and is it really all about ads, or is it much more about? Because I can see this story just developing in front of me, right? Because anyone can go sign up for Google Ads, right?
Sure.
Not everyone can make it actually work, though. So
Sure.
tell me what you've learned a little bit, and why, how you've kind of brought that back into Search Logic.
Yeah. So back in the day, it was as simple as putting up some ads, choosing some keywords, and knowing that somebody who typed that in, that you'd be one of few people to show up and they click on your site. And as
Yeah.
long as your offer was strong enough, or your call to action was strong enough, you were likely going to get a sale or a lead or whatever the case might be. As technology and data and other factors improved and advanced, it no longer became just put up an ad and get success. You had a lot more competition, both the customer competition as well as the agency competition. In addition to that, specifically Google, as well as other platforms, they advanced themselves and started to offer better marketing opportunities through their platform, whether it was better targeting, better reporting, um, better audience and like segmentation capabilities.
Yeah.
They started to advance. So the level of knowledge that you actually have to have heading into it now is a lot higher than it was 10 years ago. Now, simultaneously, Google and other platforms are trying to make it as easy as possible for the small mom and pop shops. Hey, I just want to get a few ads up. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are, a bit of a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Now, once you get to a certain point, the set it and forget it no longer is going to work for you, and you will need to find either internal resources or external resources to help grow and scale that, and also bring it beyond just Google. So, the work that we do by and large, and in the most simple form, is we are driving qualified traffic to your site in an effort to get them to take an action that ultimately produces profitable revenue. And I think the key distinction there is the profitable portion of it,
Yeah.
right? You can have non-profitable revenue, and and for us, when we started to focus in on, okay, well, great, we're driving revenue, but is it profitable? Is it actually growing and scaling the organization? That's when things really started to change. And so, um, the way that we do that, again, simply put, is reaching deeper into our customers' organization, our clients' organizations, knowing what's your gross margin, what's your average deal size, what's the lifetime value, what other tools, technology, and marketing tactics are you deploying? Are you doing email marketing? Are you doing social? Are you doing anything, video related? Let us know everything you're doing, even if we're not in charge of it,
Yeah.
because all of those data points matter in painting the real picture of you just spent $10,000 or you spent $250,000, and what did it get? What did it produce?
Right.
And so the key differentiator that we bring to the table is that insight, that transparency, that we're not just managing your dollars so that you're getting clicks or even conversions on your site, but that it makes sense, that it's adding value to your company.
Excellent. So I'm a small business owner, a local shop. You mentioned, car dealers or something in that, say a mechanic shop or something. I'm considering going and doing ads. Predict my struggles for me. What am I gonna run into that
Sure.
I'm gonna get really frustrated and have a hard time with in the first couple months where like search logic would instantly fill that gap.
Yeah, I think there's a couple key elements to that. Number one, I think that you as a small business owner are going to underestimate how expensive it actually is.
Yeah, man,
Um,
that's a. I went and looked at it. I was like, God, it's a big investment. I mean,
yeah, yeah, and if you're in a competitive environment, uh, those keywords are going to be expensive, right?
yeah,
And I would say gone are the day where you have 25-cent clicks, right? So for the small business owner, Google is an auction, right? So you are bidding on a keyword that you want. So
uh,
let's say that you're auto body mechanic dripping springs, right? Well, if
yeah,
you are going to bid on the term auto body mechanic, you've got to be willing to pay $1 if somebody clicks on your ad.
uh,
But Joe Bob down the street, he's willing to pay $2, right? And so now you either need to have better quality, which is a component to the bid, the auction, or you need to be spending more money in order to win that auction. So I say that the majority of small businesses underestimate how much money they actually need to spend just on advertising on the platform. So, 500 to $1,000 a month will get you started, but it won't get you very far. And that's not even management, right? That's not even hiring somebody to manage this. Um, and I usually tell people that, if you have somebody who's saying, "Hey, I'll manage this for a couple $100s," you're not getting a lot of their attention.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that just in defense of that, um, somebody who's spending $1,000 a month, there's not a lot of ongoing work to do, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to grow and scale, there are other pieces of the puzzle that we need to be looking at. For instance, as an auto body shop, okay, you're driving the traffic to the site. And then what, right? What do you want them to do on that site? Who's managing your site? Who's creating the content? Do you want them to download, the spec sheet, your inspection sheet for what you guys do? Why are you so valuable? Well, we do this 100-point inspection. And do you want them to download that? Okay, well, who's creating that? Who's managing that? Who's fixing it when it breaks, right? So yeah, you set up an ad campaign and you're driving them to your site, and like I said, and then what? Now, do you want them to call you? Okay. Do you want to track those numbers? Do you want just them to call you? Okay, great. Do you want them to fill out a form? All right. Who's going to respond to that form? Right? Where's that data going now? Do you have a CRM? Is it
Right.
just an Excel file? Who's managing that? Right? Once they have that component in there, what are you doing with your data? Are you going to email them? Are you going to call them? Are you going to send them a mailer? Right? So who's managing all of that? So just putting up an ad campaign, spending a 500 to $1,000 a month is the way that we would describe it is it's your fuel that's going to go on your fire.
Yeah.
So if your fire's not built and frankly going well, don't put any more fuel on that
Right.
because then your money is just being more and more wasted. So having somebody come to the table, a company like myself, even just hiring internally, they're going to know that entire sales and marketing process.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to say, hey, we need to have these key components in place before we start to drive traffic to our site. And then as that happens, they're going to be able to say, okay, we're getting good traffic, but they're not doing what we want them to do on our site. We need to test something different.
Huh.
Um, or as another example, we're not getting anybody to click on our ads. Why? Why is our targeting off? Is our messaging off?
Yep.
Are we not bidding enough? So there's a lot more that goes into it, which then adds to that, budget that you've put out there, 500 to $1,000. Like I said, that's just the beginning at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. So it's more than just like you said, right? More than just the ads. You really have to be. You have to have the whole funnel kind of ready to be ready for the outcome of those ads, right?
Sure.
And dealing with the data, which is something we see a lot with customers as well. It's the same kind of thing, whether they're doing ads or outreach or something else. They tend to lose stuff very quickly. It's like, yes, we've got a bunch of leads generated. A couple of them died out quickly, and then we just lost them and let them go. It's like, well, wait a second. You still got there's still a thread of hope here, right? So
Yeah.
you went and invested all this money to go and get these leads. You kind of had some interest. Maybe you didn't close the deal, but you don't want to just let all that stuff go out the back of the shop and just walk away, right? You want to keep contact. You want to develop the relationship, and then hopefully, maybe you fill a niche in the business that, down the road that you weren't filling before, that you can go back after those customers. And I think
Yeah.
it's a big thing with people trying to get it into their thought process that, every one of those touch points that you have with a customer is like incredibly valuable. You spent all this money to go get them, right? You don't lose them as you go through the process, right? It's really kind of important. And then your point about the data, I think, is really relevant as well, and that to be able to see what's working and what's not working. I think, to me, that's always kind of been a unique talent, especially when you get into higher end sales. And we used to do it at the product level to say, why isn't this part of the portfolio selling compared to this one, right? Is it just that we're better at selling like these discussions? And a lot of times that was it. It's just that we had more experienced salespeople and kind of in front of customers that could kind of talk the talk there. But it allowed us, once we started actually focusing on the data more, other than just, where did we sign the deals, we were able to go and adjust our approach or adjust personnel, or do some training. And I think that's a big part of this whole endeavor is that you have to be able to go and have those micro adjustments as you're going and really kind of get a feel for what's going to work and what's not going to work. And seems like that's a niche that you guys kind of fill.
Yeah, and I would piggyback on that because I'm in agreement with everything you just said. Um, you know, when you are driving traffic to the site and things are happening and you're getting deals, the next question is back into that profitability. Awesome. You close somebody who's going to produce $10,000 in revenue for you.
Yep.
Okay, well, how much did it cost to drive that sale? Did it cost $1,000? Did it cost $10,000? If you can't answer that, then you've got some work to do before you should be driving that traffic,
Right.
right? Because like I was using as an example with that phone number, okay, so you want them to call you. Well, if you're getting 20 calls a day, how many of them are coming from your ads?
Yep.
Well, we can't answer that. Okay, then we need to fix that because you need to know that you spent $10 to get that phone call and it came from Google or it came from Meta or it came from fill in the blank. And so absolutely, it's that data is one of the most important components. It's like picking up the Bible and reading a verse in there and saying all of a sudden I know everything that's in this thing, right?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You've you just because you drive traffic doesn't mean that you're going to be profitable and successful. You need to be able to tell the story.
Yeah, and that you kind of close the loop there a little bit too with the back end stuff's got to be there, right? If your website sucks and everyone who comes to your website looks at you and says, "Oh, these guys are looks like a bunch of high school kids put this together," right? Then you don't get the credibility. You don't have people don't get confidence in your ability. You can't build a website. I'm going to let you go work on my car. Are you kidding me? So you kind of have you really have to have the whole game together, I think, and that's kind of where I've thought that having people in the know that are doing this every day. That's why it makes sense to make the extra investment to go get people who are familiar with the landscape and how all this stuff works,
Yeah.
and you can really. I think that's the ROI discussion, and like go spend the. And my wife's going through this, right? She's a nurse practitioner who does aesthetics, so Botox, filler, all the stuff that women like to do to themselves, which I won't go into a deep dive there, but
Whole nother podcast
it's a
recording.
great business for her, and I love that she does it. But it just terrifies me, people sticking needles in their face. But like you said, different subject. But she's kind of going through this whole thing right now, and that's she's a medical practitioner. She's just not into ads and websites and all this stuff. So she needs the help. But there's so many variances to the type of people who want to come help you, right? It's really tough to go and choose like who's the good fit, right? So what's your advice to someone who's kind of looking to go down this road, and maybe they're going and talking to some people and saying, how can I get some help? What should they be asking for in that partner to go work with, to go really help take their business to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that number one thing is that and it sounds obvious, but it really does make a difference. You've got to have a connection with the person because they're going to get to know your business really, really well. And you also need to be comfortable sharing kind of under the hood about your business, right?
Yeah.
The struggles, the areas of weakness, what works. I mean, we've worked with customers. who they don't really want to get into the financial side of their business with us. And it's like, well, we're managing a significant amount of money for you, and we need to know what's profitable, what's working, how
Yeah.
is this working? So if you don't really share a lot of on what's on your end, it's hindering our ability to do good work for you. So you've got to know them, like them, connect them, and trust them.
Trust.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I would say experience in your industry or your business category is important, but I would actually step out and say experience in the structure of your business, right? Um, Not all e-commerce customers are the same,
Yeah.
but they're very similar, right? If you really look at marketing as a whole for e-commerce, the process is relatively the same. So it's not that they need to have experience in your auto body shop. They need to have experience in driving leads to an audience that's similar to yours.
Yeah.
So talking to them about their experience in, okay, most of our customers are middle class, right? They're mostly women who, their husbands work a lot and they need to get the car fixed, right? This actually just happened with my wife. And she had to go take care of everything. So she had to do the research. She had to go find where we were going to take the car. And so okay, what other industries, what other customers, what experience do you have in connecting with middle-aged, middle-class women who need something done somewhere? You
Yeah.
know, so it's like it's okay that they don't have your exact business experience, but what you want is that kind of next level up. Um, Also, cheaper is not better, and the most expensive is not better.
Huh.
It's sometimes you can get a cheap deal, but here's what's going to happen on that cheap deal. They're going to get burnt out because inevitably you're going to need more and more and more things from them. And more than likely, if they're not charging you much, they're not spending a ton of time on you,
Right.
which is not good or bad. But it's something to consider that cheaper is not better, and the most expensive is not always better. Sometimes when you're doing the most expensive, you're paying because this brand is so well known, right?
Yeah.
Well, whatever, who cares? Like, I care about the work being done. Um, and then from a question perspective, um, I think that you'll know you have a good partner when they're asking questions that make you go, never really thought about that, right? Or, nobody's ever asked me, what do I do with the leads once they convert,
Yeah.
right? I just wanted you to drive traffic to the site, but you're asking me what's next, what's happening after that. And I would say too, just as a final part to that, um, a successful relationship in paid media requires somebody, a, an agency or an individual who's not afraid to tell you that this isn't going to work or that you need to do this before you do that. And you've got to listen to them, right? So being able to that we tell anybody we hire as part of our training onboarding is we have to be truthful and honest and paint the real picture for our customers. And sometimes our customers listen to us, and sometimes they don't.
Yep.
But that can't stop us from telling the truth
Yep.
in the reality. And so finding an agency that's not just a yes man because they want your money, but being able to say, hey, listen, you've got a horrible website. If you spend $1,000 driving traffic to your website, you might as well just burn $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I developed my wife's website, and every time she goes and talks to someone and they criticize her website, it just is like a dagger in my heart. And it's like, ah,
That's funny. Yeah, you know very well. It's funny. We're a bit of the shoe cobbler's kid, right? Our website's not the best. I know that. In fact, most of our marketing for us is not the best marketing.
yeah.
because we're so focused on everybody else, you know. So that is part of what we're working on this year. But uh, yeah, you will never please everybody.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. I'm going back to your Denny's story. So as my first entrepreneur job, I did car detailing, and I would get people's cars so flippin' clean that you could see them sparkling from a mile away, right? But yet my car was an absolute filthy disaster because that's like the last thing I wanted to do, right?
Yeah,
In my spare
yeah,
time is go clean my own car. But it is what it is. But I'm
yep.
not saying that our website for our companies are bad, but they're actually pretty good right now. So
That's good.
not to be derogatory. And I'm, it's an acquired skill, and it's a taste thing too. So it's everyone's a little bit different in what they like and what they see.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit because we go back to these smaller businesses and people that we know and stuff. So you guys do a lot with Google. I think that's kind of it sounds like that's a little bit of your bread and butter. Let's go off, on the other platforms that are out there, right? The Yelps, the Facebooks, the YouTubes. Tell me about your experience there and maybe some of the gotchas there. Like, I was trying to get my wife into Yelp. I just registered her, and then it was just a barrage of all these different options, and get pay to get ranked, and just to put your logo on there costs like dollars a day. I'm just curious what your opinion of those things are. Is there value there that people can go and generate for themselves?
Yeah. I'll start with a disclaimer. Um,
Yeah, we can get
testing,
controversial. Let's.
yeah, testing and measuring is always good.
Yeah,
I would never tell somebody, not to do something, assuming it made somewhat of sense. I would never tell somebody not to test something. Um, Historically, Yelp has been garbage, just historically.
yeah,
I believe that recently they have been improving their overall services and delivery. Um, but to step back and answer your question, maybe from a macro level, the first thing we have to do is understand the sales and marketing funnel, right? So for customers who or for the audience who doesn't necessarily know how that breaks down, I'll simply paint it. Top of funnel is your awareness. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know they even need something, right? They may my partner in smart tech, he likes to give this example. Um, Taco Bell is advertising, open late night, whatever the case might be.
yeah,
You're going to see these ads and not even think twice about them, right? So you don't even know that you need that fourth meal. It's not even on your radar. Well, you start to see these ads, and all of a sudden you're kind of like, man, I'm kind of hungry. We should eat, So you go and you get a snack out of the fridge or whatever. Well, middle of funnel is now the consideration, right? So you're aware that you have this problem or aware that you have this need, and now you're considering what to do about that. So Taco Bell continues to advertise in many different ways. You start to see them on Facebook. You start to see them still on TV or wherever else. And now you're like, man, you know what sounds amazing is some good old Tex-Mex. Let's go get some tacos. We'll make some tacos at home, right? Um, Then, as you're going through this process, 7, 8, 9 times after seeing their ads across all different places, you get to this point where you're like, I don't know why, but I need Taco Bell. And it's
Hmm.
10:30 at night. I've already had dinner. I don't understand, but I need Taco Bell. We're going to go get Taco Bell. Right? So now you're bottom of funnel. Taco Bell better be available, ready for you because now you've made the decision and Taco Bell is the decision.
yeah.
So as your audience progresses through that funnel, you need to be at every one of those stages. So now back to your question more specifically. each platform plays a role in one of those stages of the sales and marketing funnel. Meta or Facebook. So Meta is Facebook, TikTok, and all the other platforms that Mr. Zuckerberg owns. Um, that's going to play mostly in the upper funnel, top of funnel awareness section. Facebook will bleed into the middle consideration phase.
Yep.
It will play in that. And then very, very small amounts of kind of that direct response ready to take an action. And you'll see that with, like the lead forms, right? You click on an ad and you don't even leave the website. You just fill out a form and you're back to browsing your stream. So to more, I guess, get back to your question, Meta's going to be, or Facebook's going to be more of that upper funnel awareness. Get your brand out there, get people talking about you, get, that interest in whatever it is that you might have. Having a Google search campaign, a Microsoft campaign, those are going to be great for when they're searching about your service or topic. Let's say you're that mechanic. When and you've got you as a consumer, they own a Toyota RAV4. All right. When do I need to get my oil changed? How many miles do I need to get my oil changed? Well, if they're going to Google that, then you need to be able to provide the information to answer that. That could be done, which I'm sure we'll get to at a certain point, needs to be done with the AI response.
Yep.
It can be done with a blog post that you've put out, and so now your website shows up. Um, you want to be able to answer that question for them in some sense with no expectation that they're going to go, oh, I've got to get my oil changed, so I'm going to go ahead and book with you. So they saw you on Facebook or saw something on Facebook, got curious, they typed in something, your ad shows up, you're going to answer their question. Excellent. Well, now they've been to your website or they saw you. Now we can retarget them, right? So we can actually, that's why whenever you go search for shoes on Amazon or whatever it might be, I mean, the fact that I just said it out loud,
Yep.
you're gonna get shoe ads later today, right? And let's be even more specific. You're gonna get high-end men's dress shoes. All right, so there, Amazon, Google, everybody heard us.
No,
Those are the
no.
ads you're gonna get now. Um, but the point being is now we can actually send more ads across the internet to you because you've been to our site, because you searched these keywords, because you saw our ads somewhere, and we want you to come back, right? So now we're in this consideration level, which is, hey, save $10, get your oil changed here next, right?
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I've got about 1,000 miles until I get it, download the coupon, whatever the case might be. Then you now need to get your oil changed, and you're like, gosh, what was that? What was that location? That was Bob's Oil or whatever it was, and I can't remember it. So you go search for it, you find that one person, and you're specifically looking for them because you've seen them, you've
Yep.
interacted with them, you've seen their ads again, and now you have the need. So Google search and others are going to be in Microsoft as well. It's going to be important for that to be there when you're ready. And then one final platform that I think is I don't know if underused is the right word, but I think it's often one of the fewer ones thought about for the smaller businesses is YouTube,
Yeah.
right? So oftentimes that the example of changing your oil, you might go to YouTube and say, how often do I have to change my oil? And can I change my oil myself? Right? So Bob's Oil, you should have a video out there showing people how to change their oil. Now you're an oil company. Why would you, or oil change company? Why would you do that? Well, they're going to see you as a trusted source and a value, and then they're going to get under the hood, under their car. They're going to get dirty. They're going to break something. They're not going to have the right tools. They're going to get annoyed, frustrated. They're going to come to you. They're going to come back. So um, that was a long way. I hope I
No, no.
addressed some of it, but
It's a great answer because now you know, the other thing that always happened to me is that now I got 5 quarts of dirty oil sitting in my driveway.
and what do you do with it?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
leave it there for 3 months
yeah,
until my wife
yes,
drives me nuts. Right, like get rid of this. Right, like, and
yep,
then now I got to go drive somewhere to take the oil. that
Probably Bob's Oil Company.
right, right, or that I got to go to the landfill because they have a dump
Yep.
station there that I can get rid of dirty oil. But then I got to go wait in line, and it's never easy, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's the kind of stuff that you can go put into that video and say, yeah, don't this
Don't forget this part. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like it's going to be fun for you until your knuckles are bleeding because you just let that screw go, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that's good stuff. So I think YouTube, we've been doing a lot of stuff with YouTube, obviously, doing the podcast and this stuff. I think it's to your point, it I don't think that it's necessarily underutilized as much as it's just a more difficult platform to people
Sure.
to be comfortable with, right? I mean, you the people who do well on YouTube, they've kind of gotten over the hump of being uncomfortable and being, in front of a camera.
Yeah.
I still find that most people really struggle with that, which is good for people like us, right? Because we're, extroverts to some degree. But it's that to me is, my and back to my wife, she's struggling with the same thing. Everyone says you got to put yourself out there, you got to go do videos. That's a really difficult thing to go do, right? And
Yeah.
you get into editing and all the other stuff. So, do when you guys go and sell like ad bundles, do you cover like the various platforms? Do you kind of can you blend it out a little bit, or do you kind of focus on one or another?
Yeah. Also a good question. So there's a couple different ways to answer that. Um, and I for a moment, Search Logic tends to work with medium to enterprise level businesses. We have a lot of experience with small businesses, um, and we have there's a handful of them that are very small. So the answer is a little bit different depending on who you're talking to.
Yep.
The way that I would think about this is kind of like a day trader in the market or stockbroker in the market. Depending upon your budget, what you have to work with will depend on where we're focusing our efforts. If you're going to start with that 500 to 1,000, maybe even $5,000 a month in advertising, you don't want to go and put that onto Google, Microsoft, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You don't want to go blast it everywhere because now all of a sudden you're only going to have a few $100s a month on one platform,
Right.
right? And so you've spread your eggs out a little too much. So depending on your budget, we're gonna say we need to focus this in. Let's get some success going in this particular platform. The other thing is really focusing in on what are the needs of the customer, right? Some customers, and this is completely acceptable, they're just like, all I care about right now is getting my brand out there. I just want people to see my brand, right? So it's all about impressions.
Yep.
Impressions, simply put, are just when your ad is seen online. It's not necessarily even interacted with. You just see the ad, that's an impression. Um, if you want just impressions, well, we could utilize a tool called programmatic advertising. It's this goes out over the top television. So think about like Netflix with commercials, YouTube commercials, on your TV. We can get your impressions, your ads there through programmatic. Um, Display advertising, you're reading blogs, you're on websites, and there's an ad there, right? We can get your ad there. That's just getting eyes on your ad. Totally acceptable for small businesses, if they care about just getting that done. With that, okay, you need to start with about $5,000 a month to really make an impact in that. As you grow and scale, or as rather, I should say, as customers come to us with more budget, now we're going to start to say, okay, we should be looking at where your audience is specifically. If it's more on the B2B space, then Facebook is not a bad option, but it may not be where we want to start. We might want to be starting in LinkedIn, right? Let's go target individuals on LinkedIn. Um, I would say that we're always going to recommend at least a baseline Google account, right? Because inevitably, if somebody is searching or sees your ad rather, they're going to search for you.
Yep.
So we might as well be available when that happens. But a big component to how we um, how we approach our customers is how much budget do you have? What's your experience, right?
Hmm.
So have you been doing this already? Do you have accounts already set up, established, and data that we can look at? Um, who's your audience? Where are they hanging out? What's their pain point? What are they looking for?
Yep.
And then, as mentioned earlier, okay, we drive the traffic to your site, and then what? Walk us through what you have set up already. And I will say, just as a caveat, the way we've been discussing it, it can sound daunting and overwhelming, but oftentimes simple is better, right?
Yep.
So I just want to drive traffic to my site so that they would fill out a contact form. They'd learn what we do, fill out a contact form. That data can go into a simple CRM of some sort, and we'll call them or we'll email them. That
Yep.
it could be as simple as that. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. In fact, ironically, some of the largest companies we've worked with, which are multi-billion dollar multinational companies, still use Excel files for their data management, in like CRMs. And I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
sitting here going, this is crazy, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Seen it too. And yeah, you guys have some really big customers on your site. So I've worked with New Relic and a bunch of them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great company.
some big businesses there. So, we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I have a couple more things that I kind of wanted to dive into. And you broke the seal on AI, so we'll close out with AI. But before we go there, I wanted to just pick your brain about, like, like, let's call it the new alternative media, right? Like the influencer space and, the Barstool Sports and I saw it a lot during the election, right? Like we're going to go bring in a bunch of, 20 something kids who have 1 million YouTube subscribers and, we're going to get them to do videos and that kind of stuff. What's your take on that kind of investment and I'm just curious from your perspective. Is that something that you kind of see, growing, or are we over the hump already and it's already kind of on the downside?
Yeah, I think that when it started, the focus was very much who has the most followers, right?
Yeah,
Who's the biggest name? Can we get a Kardashian to put on our makeup, right?
yeah,
Because you knew it would just blow up. Um, I think now what's what success is finding those microfluencers that they may only have 5, 10,000 followers, but they're hyper focused on what it is that you offer, or
yeah,
rather, they are your audience. So influencer status now, in my opinion, is not who has the most, it's who has the best, who is the most closely connected and related to your audience. I would say if if I have to be honest, it's going to be easier for the B2C consumer-based product lines. So we
yeah,
have a high-end shoe company, shoe fashion company, and so it's their beautiful ostrich, snakeskin, alligator leather, just incredible shoes, and within the market, they're actually affordable in comparison. Um, so if we get some, a good part of our audience is like a Southern Baptist preacher, right? He's
yeah.
up on stage on Sundays and he's got his purple suit and he's got his fancy shoes on, right?
Yeah.
Um,
You
his
paint you
audience,
paint a great picture. Yeah, that's great.
yeah, exactly. We all know what we're looking at here. Um, if that's a small target in comparison to who all could actually wear these shoes. I've got
Right.
several myself, and I am not that person. Um, so being able to target in, find the influencers who have a following of your people is the most important. And the more visually aesthetic your product is, or your, I guess, service as well, but your product,
Yeah,
the better. Because people get when you're scrolling, you inevitably stop on, oh, that looked kind of cool. What was that? Right? It's hard to do that when you're a B2B law firm, right?
right. Yeah,
Debt consolidation, right? How do you make that look sexy? You don't.
yeah,
But there's a niche and an audience around that. So I'll say one more thing. and then we can move on to AI. Um, when your service is a niche service like that, and you can't just go out and broadcast to the entire world. Now I want to start asking the question, okay, well, who also serves your customer base? Would accountants be a good network for you to go be at? Okay, what value can we offer accountants, and who's the influencer within the accounting world,
Right.
right? Let's go meet with them, and let's get them to go out to the accounting world, because we know that the accountants know the businesses who are struggling with debt, and we're going to bring them back to us. So it's kind of this roundabout way. That's how we would start to navigate that process. But anyways, all that to say, there is a time and a place for the Kardashian to promote your product. That obviously still generates success. It's a flash in the pan, and you better be ready to support it long term. Again, back to the overall marketing process. How are you going? And then what, right?
Right.
But by and large, we wanna know who has the best tight knit audience. That anytime that they say, "Hey, this is a product I would use," that audience is going to go, "I'm going to go sign up for that because I trust this person."
I love it. I think that's great advice. Well done.
Yeah.
All right. So you said it first. I was holding off because we've already talked about this in some detail. I'm the ultimate cynic of AI. I've actually got my own little blurb that I'm doing on because there's some stuff coming out now that AI isn't intelligent, right? Which is what I've been saying for the last 2 years. And now I'm also, now all of a sudden I'm getting some credibility behind me. And my background in the technologies is pretty deep and far flung, so my perspective's kind of unique. So, but tell me how you see it influencing your space and where you think that's gonna, is it gonna help? Is it gonna hurt? Is it making your life easier? Is it adding competition? So, what's your view?
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoyed our previous conversation around AI. And it's funny, in recording my own podcast, I've talked to the complete opposite, right, as well. So every view around AI, machine learning, large language models is varying to a degree or another. Um, as it pertains to us, I think that AI in general, just the global word AI and everything it encompasses, I think we're a long way off from it being like the dominating factor in our world, meaning we don't have to work. We're a very, very long way off from that.
Yeah.
Um, but a buddy of mine, he likes to say that AI condenses the workflow,
Yeah.
right? So if it took an hour to complete previous, you can get it done in 10 minutes. That's useful. And that's true. Um, and the quality of response that you can get from that condensed workflow is getting better every day, and it gets better the more you feed the information. Just by the nature of what AI is,
Yeah.
the more it has to work with, the better its response is going to be. um, as a side note, I always say thank you and I always say please when I'm working with chat or any other AI, just on the instance that they do take over. I want to be on their good side. Actually, it's funny. I heard somebody post something. He said something to the effect of the amount of money that is going into people just typing in please and thank you for the data calls is insane. So
Yeah.
it's like people are like, please stop doing that. They don't need it. Anyways, all that to say, so condensing the workflow is really important for us.
Yeah.
I use it certainly every day. I use it to help me craft emails. I use it to help me create pitch decks. I use it to help me, um, you know, pre prepare for podcasts, right? So
Yeah.
when you and I recorded the other podcast, I used chat to do research on you and kind of help me get the right questions asked. So those are all really, really good things. Um, I think the future, well, I'll go a little bit more into search logic or the way that we're using it, or any number of my companies, I guess. But data analysis is still really good.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to get better. You have to be very careful with it because, and this is known, obviously, I'm not the first person to say this, but it'll make stuff up. And so if you're not careful, even in analysis, you're giving it its information, it'll still come back with a hallucination. And it's like, that was not even part of what I asked. But data analysis, it will find things quicker and better than the human eye can find when you're talking about a significant amount of data.
Yeah.
Now, it still requires us to look at it. It still requires us to interpret it, and it still requires us to tell the story that we need to tell. So it just helps us do our job better in that way. I was interviewing somebody else who's big into AI, and the way that they were describing it, I found really valuable, and I see this more as the future of new industry, new markets, because I think what we're seeing with AI is we're seeing businesses created at a rate that we've never seen before. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is, if you and I spent an hour talking about a potential idea, I could go to a number of people, and tomorrow we could have a functioning model up that we could take to market within a week.
Yeah.
It is producing that. So the way they were describing it is, these large language models, MLs, whatever acronym you want to build, it's just this sea of information. And the next level are people using that sea of information in various ways within their organization or as a service offering, right? Email automation. Oftentimes, when you're on websites and you're going to chat with somebody, you're now chatting with an AI agent, right? Um, you get a sales call, you can have a sales call and a full on conversation with an AI robot, right? And sometimes you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the short clips that you now see on TikTok, right, or Facebook, that's an AI generated video. It's not even a real person anymore. Or it is you, it's just not you, just didn't record that one, right?
Right.
So what people are building off of the data that's available, the baseline tool that's available, I think is where the future is going to be. And I think you're going to start to see some really incredible um, organizations built out of that. And again, I would just say, all said and done, for us, for Search Logic, it's how can we do more quicker and not with less people because we don't want to hire people, but just we don't need to hire. It's like the assembly line, right?
Yeah.
When Ford built the assembly line, it didn't it replaced jobs, but it created new ones. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of I see it that way as well. It's an enhancement, right? And
Hmm.
I've been derided by some of my friends because I keep calling it search engine 2.0, right? It's like, all right,
Sure.
instead of having to go sort through the websites myself, now I just get the actual information that I want from 15 or 16 different websites. I was,
Actually, real quick on that, that's a very real thing. And we've seen customers have a decrease, an increase in impressions and a decrease in traffic.
yeah,
So there is a downside to it unless you're taking advantage of those snippets. Right. So you go to Google now and you type in how to change my oil. Well, now AI tells you how to do it. Now that information's pulled from a source, of course,
right.
and they mark the source. But several of our customers have seen a decline in traffic, but their information is still being seen. So it's not all good stuff. Like I'm not super excited about that.
Well,
So we just have to figure out how to manage it.
so the whole website development thing now is starting to, SEO is moving to, you know, AIEO, right? And so not only how do you get your website to come back through a search engine, but how do you get AI to start picking up on the content of your website? And it's what's the way it's going, at least initially, is that you're just going to embed a bunch of stuff into the website that people, normal people can't see, but it's all character based. So that if an AI agent is searching through the code of the website, it's going to see all that stuff, right? So and then you have, it's all this superfluous stuff that, we are the best in the business. And, you kind of put all this stuff out there that you wouldn't normally say to normal people. But if I want the best auto body repair shop in the area, right? Well, if AI's got all this data saying best auto body repair shop, and you've got that buried in your website someplace, well, guess what? Now you're going to come to the top of the list, right? So,
Right.
so the gamesmanship is on, right? And then, you know, Google when it first started, it didn't have the rankings of the search returns based on who were their customers, right? But that's the next thing is now you're going to get, I'm gonna pay ChatGPT so that I get higher ranked on my, so that I return. So now the credibility of the results you're going to get are going to be skewed by the financial impact on the actual provider, right? So
Right.
I think that's kind of where the downfall starts. I think.
Yeah, and related to that, um, not directly but indirectly, chat, if using chat on a day-to-day basis, chat is built to please you, right? Chat is the ultimate yes man. Um, so if you ask chat a question, inevitably it's going to give you the most positive response it possibly can come up with. So the objective analysis isn't there. It's not human at that point, right?
Yeah.
So saying, chat, what do you think about this pitch deck? Well, it wants you it thinks that you want a positive response. Right? So,
Right.
oh, this is a great one. I might change this, I might change that, but everything else looks great. Okay, well, I didn't want to be patted on the back. I wanted to actually say, does this pitch deck suck?
Yeah.
Right. And so in order for that, I've got to send it to my team and just be like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Does this look good? Does this look bad? And so chat is incentivized. Like you want to use chat. It's not incentivization. That's the wrong word, but it's not to a point where it's going to give you that objective opinion based upon anything, emotions or facts, obviously. So there's a long way to go there, and I don't think it'll. Well, I'm not a fan of saying it will never happen, but think we're a long way off of that. But to your point, back to the incentivization, same thing with Google, shopping, Google Shopping, if you're selling products, for a long time, Google Shopping was free. It was just whoever had the most reviews, the best product, whatever,
Yeah.
best prices. Then it became a paid thing, right? So now you can pay to be at the top. Well, AI is not far from that.
Yep.
You've
Yeah.
got
They
to
got
manipulate it.
they got to monetize it somehow, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's the next leg of the stool is that all right, we're paying for these monster data centers all over the place. This stuff requires a lot of computing power. How do we get back that investment? And I think that's the next leg of this is you got to start skewing the results. So
Yeah. Yeah,
go
absolutely.
pay.
And I think the you're heading into it, but maybe another conversation is where computing is going, right? Quantum
Yeah,
computing and other tools like that. Like we don't even necessarily have the machines that can support the next iteration of what AI could be, right, at this
yeah,
point. So um yeah, well, like it or not, it's here. Um I know your opinion is it's here and going away, or not necessarily going away, but
yeah.
it's not going to go where we believe it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I have a buddy he's a big gamer, and his whole measurement. He's a developer as well, so he knows the algorithms and how it all works. And his whole thing is, I still can't have a game experience with like a non-player character who's actually semi-intelligent, right? They're all just still like hard programmed, turn
Yeah,
this way,
robots.
yeah, turn this way. So there's no real intelligence there to kind of respond to people playing games and that kind of stuff. So his whole thing is when you start to see a little bit of that mix into the world, then that it's kind of getting to where it's interacting with humans a little bit differently, other than just through language and probability matrices, right? And I think that's one of the tells is that and my whole the thing that I'm doing right now, and a lot of my writing is going into what's real human intelligence versus machine intelligence, and where are we now, and where does that journey really have to go, and it's still a pretty long ways. I just think, we're still at the peak of the hype curve. I think if we're even there yet. So I think I think it's good though. To your point, it's definitely enhanced my productivity. I use it every day as well, and just because it can help generate ideas and to your point, I can get stuff done now where I would have to spend weeks writing I can go and kind of build out an outline and a framework in just a couple seconds, which is, I find, it's just a great way to organize thoughts and kind of put things in place. And then, to your point as well, you can just go make adjustments on the fly as you need them. So
Yeah.
I certainly see benefits. To me, I struggle with, some of the wording, right? And then, like this, it's going to take over the world. Like, all right, how is it going to take over the world?
Right.
It's not really sentient. It's not alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all interesting stuff. It certainly is a new time, and to your point, I'm inundated every day with every new AI company wanting to go build some crazy new AI thing, and it's like, well, guys, the whole point of it is that I don't need you to go build all of this, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got my own AI agent. I can go do it on my own. So yeah, and there's some really funny stuff coming out now too about AI agents and how they're talking to themselves, and it's some crazy stuff going on. But
Yeah.
I tend to look for the humor in all of it, and I think there's plenty out there right now. So it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
I had a buddy, he forwarded me an email, and the it was from a vendor of his, and clearly written by AI. Like
Yeah,
there, you just knew it. You didn't even have to be knowledgeable of AI, and you'd be like, "Who wrote this?" And I responded. I said, "Why don't you have your AI connect with his AI, solve the problem for you, and just let you guys know when the problem's solved?"
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
is that where we're at? Have my
Yeah,
people talk to your people?
yeah. I mean, that's really what's going to happen, right? So, I talked to some guys this week who, they're super cool, and it's a great podcast. If I'll share it with you once I put it up. Excuse me. And they're like an SDR shop, and they're so creative, and they're just, it was just a great conversation with them. But now all the phone companies are putting like AI agents in to screen phone calls, right? And I was, we were talking about that a little bit, and I was in my head, I was thinking that exact same thing. Now you're going to have an AI agent calling the phone, being picked up by an agent, right? And then, you're trying to have the two agents fight together to try to get the call. It's like, oh man, what a crazy world we're creating, right?
Yeah.
And nothing's going to get done, right? It's not, you're never going to talk to the person. You're never actually going to get to the point where you're trying to sell something.
And we're
So
all going to get dumber.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, none of us are going to know how to write anymore. So
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Yeah, my kid was shocked me. He came home from school several months back, and he's like, "I can write my name in cursive," and I was like, "Wow, you guys still do that? That's incredible."
Man, that is a lost skill. I hope we don't lose. I'll tell you,
I agree.
my handwriting sucks because I'm so good at typing these days. But it's nice to see somebody who can actually write in good cursive this day. So I still value that.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
all right, Billy, it's been a great chat. Thank you so much for the time today.
Likewise, Bob.
Uh, it was really I think enlightening in a lot of ways. Have a great trip to Oregon. I know you
Thanks.
getting ready for some family time together. It sounds like it's going to be a blast. Enjoy the Willamette Valley, one of my favorite places
Well,
in the world, and I can't wait till the next time. So let's uh,
likewise.
let's stay in touch. Hopefully, we'll come up with some more topics, and then we'll dive in the next time. All right,
Sounds like a plan.
all right, buddy. Take care.
Thanks.